dovetail with these other ladies. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, people think, oh, I'm only going to take about a minute here. Your minutes usually run into 4 and 5, by the way. They really do.
I can talk for an hour if you want me to, but
no, I'd rather keep it under 300 seconds.
So, following up on what they say is really important. What happened is Florida's Constitution does have a mandate that they balance the budget. So when the economy's cooking with gas, we don't have a state income tax, which everybody else in the country loves because they moved down here because of that, and it's sales tax. So what happened is the old governor saw when the crash came, he says, I don't want to be the bad guy and cut the budget, so I'm going to quit. I'm going to resign and run for the Senate because I can go to Washington and they don't have to balance the budget. So then the new guy came in, and he's not a very likable, jovial fella, but he had to cut $5 billion out of the budget. That's what the Constitution says. So those things got cut because it's like, you know, at some point in time you're going to pay school teachers, you're going to pay retirement funds for public employees, you're going to build roads, you're going to conserve land, but we got to cut $5 billion out of a $75 billion budget. So somebody's going to take a hit. So economic downturns are very important. The other thing too is some of this land that they have for sale, it isn't pristine, good land. They'll buy, in St. Lucie County, they bought about 15,000 acres of groves to build a reservoir. What we have in Florida is when it rains 50 inches, and most of that's in the summertime, it all runs off. But before man came here, it flooded these swamps and ran off slowly, and it was clean. So when people got here, didn't want to live in a mosquito-infested swamp and die of malaria, they drained the land. It wasn't with evil intent. It's just what you did 100 years ago. If you wanted to live here, nobody lived here before then because it wasn't a very pleasant place. So that happens. The water runs off fast. Then we get into the dry season, we don't have enough water. So the point of the reservoirs is to mimic what nature would have done when you had all those swamps. You stack the water up in the reservoir, then you can bleed it out slowly. That way you don't blast it out to the estuaries all at one time in the summer and screw them up. It's just what happened this last summer when it rained so much. But they buy all this land, and the various governments own about 40% of Florida already. Then they don't have enough money to build the reservoir. So now you have a dead grove with a bunch of invasives moving in because they don't manage or caretake it, and they'll never build the reservoir because they're never going to have enough money. And so they've wasted that money, and whatever money they have to, and it takes that land off the tax roll. So now you have less taxes coming in to do things with. So it's not just about spending money; it's about being smart and spending it wisely. So one thing that we're advocating, and we funded, my company I work for funded a study through South Florida Water Management District on basically leasing our property to stack water up on, because instead of building hundreds of millions of dollar industrial dike, we can just plug up the drainage and just let it stack up like it used to. And if they would just lease the land from us, it's cheaper to do that than to buy it and not build a reservoir. And you actually can do a lot more acres and hold a lot more water and clean up a lot more water. There's an aversion to that with the regulators and the bureaucrats, so they really don't want private people to make a profit cleaning up water. I don't know why, but they could clean up more water that way, and it would be less expensive than buying land and then not cleaning up water. So those are some alternatives. They do need to spend more money. The other thing that happens is the politicians want a headline and a quick fix and say, we did something. But if you look at the scale of things, they don't do enough, but they don't want to tell anybody that. They want a headline and a photo op. And people need to understand the scale of the problem. And it's like, okay, if you really want to fix it, what's it going to cost? What's the smartest way? And let's do it the right way. I talked to one of the lead scientists on
30 seconds.
Cleaning up water. There's a 10 part per billion phosphorus mandate to go to the Everglades. They made that number up before they knew it, what it should be. They're going to spend $800 million to try to get there. No one's ever gotten water down to 10 parts per billion. They've gotten it down to 15 and 20. Cattails started about 40 or 50. You could double the limit from 10 part to 20 and save $800 million to do other things with, and it would be a smart thing to do. But environmentalists would have to say, yes, that's smart. Politicians would have to grow a pair and say, this is what we need to do.
Time's up.
Free flowers.